Hi, Dan Stein, president of FAIR. Thanks for joining me, and I'm here with Matt O'Brien, who's FAIR's director of research, and we're going to drill down to the bottom what's happening right now on Capitol Hill. Everybody knows we had one of these on Monday, but we had a few technical glitches. If you didn't hear all the sound, that's good, because the swamp critters were out in force yesterday at the White House, and for all of you who might have seen Donald Trump sitting there with all these politicians, many of whom are architects of the current immigration crisis we face today, people like Dick Durbin, Dianne Feinstein, Steny Hoyer, a lot of other folks who ought to know better, a lot of the Democrats who basically don't care whether immigration is controlled, whether the laws are respected, who want amnesty no matter what. They were all there nodding heads while Donald Trump made a series of statements which led us to believe that he may or may not be a reliable ally when it comes to dealing with the swamp critters on the Hill. In the end, what he said was, whatever you guys send back to me, I'm going to sign. Now, Donald Trump didn't run on giving the swamp critters the keys to the kingdom and telling the swamp critters, you go into the swamp and whatever you send me, I'm going to sign. But that's what he said yesterday. He also said, as you probably know, Dianne Feinstein said, why don't we just do this clean DACA amnesty bill and we'll get to the rest of that messy stuff later. Well, Trump, maybe he wasn't listening, but he said, yeah, that's a good idea. Not a good idea. FAIR opposes amnesty. We oppose all amnesty. FAIR opposes anything associated with DACA amnesty. I want to make this abundantly clear. There is no reason the United States should be talking about amnesty. Donald Trump won his campaign. The reason why so many people who voted for Barack Obama in those blue states in 2012 shifted their vote to Donald Trump. Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Why? Because of his immigration policy positions. It's empirically demonstrated. Internal polling, that's what happened. Donald Trump owes the American people leadership on this issue. When Donald Trump starts talking about we're going to pass a bill of love, that sounds like Jeb Bush. Remember old low-energy Jeb, Lion Ted, and all those guys? Trump marched through a field of 16 primary opponents on the strength of his immigration positions. Build a wall. Remember, 3 words, build a wall, make it tall. It's catchy, like lock her up. It was very, very catchy. Well, so far the Democrats haven't shown a willingness to negotiate in good faith at all. Not one shred, not one brick. Not one dime for a brick, not 1 cent for 1 brick. Do we hear from Dick Durbin? No mandatory E-Verify as far as they're concerned. In fact, there's no evidence at all that the Democrats are negotiating from anything except a position of hubris, claiming there's this emergency over the so-called DACA beneficiaries losing their amnesty. Well, yesterday a judge announced that the Trump administration cannot stop this illegal, unconstitutional DACA amnesty from being renewed. That's bad. We want the administration to appeal that injunction. Once again, we see a judge substituting his judgment and basically thumbing his nose at the executive and the Congress and ignoring the law and pursuing a political agenda. But the worst part of that is they're going to have to appeal it. Now, the good part of it is it takes away from the Democrats the argument that there's this artificial deadline. The thing that was driving this emergency meeting in the first place, and that somehow when Durbin says lives are in the balance, well, apparently lives aren't in the balance today. Yesterday they were in the balance, today they're not in the balance. Well, Donald Trump turned to Bob Goodlatte and he said, you know, Bob, you're my man on the Judiciary Committee. You've been in Congress a long time. It's your last term. Let's win this one. Why don't you drop in a bill that does what we're talking about? Border security, build the wall, funding for the wall, chain migration. This is a critical thing, eliminating chain migration, get rid of this crazy lottery, do all the things that basically the American people were promised to do. And Goodlatte, being the good soldier, has a limited DACA adjustment program. It's not a path to citizenship, a 3-year renewable status. And here to tell us more about this bill is Matt O'Brien. As I said at the beginning, Matt O'Brien, FAIR's Director of Research. And Matt's going to run through a quick summary of what's in the bill and give us the latest. Thanks, Matt.
Dan, what we're expecting to see is a bill that in exchange for a limited amnesty only affecting those who have DACA now, would be $30 billion for wall funding, the addition of 10,000 Border Patrol agents.
All right, $30 billion for wall funding, $30 billion
Correct.
for wall funding, 10,000 more Border Patrol agents.
And ICE officers combined.
Nice, officers.
The implementation of a functional biometric exit and entry technology. Mandatory E-Verify, an end to chain migration in the visa
Mandatory
lottery,
verify is important. No chain migration. RAISE Act components.
and legislation allowing the Justice Department to withhold federal grants from so-called sanctuary cities.
A lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff.
So this is Goodlatte, Labrador, right? McSally.
Yes.
McCall.
Yes.
Any Democrats say they're going to vote for this yet?
Not that we've seen.
Any evidence this bill might pass the Senate?
Not at the current time.
So in the absence of any evidence this thing could pass as it's introduced, why would anyone support it?
That's a good question. I think it's a better alternative than some of the other proposed bills or calls for legislation that only offer vague promises of border security further down the road. But the fact is, if this can't pass, it's not worth supporting.
Well, Donald Trump yesterday said, I would pass a DACA bill, amnesty, in exchange for wall funding. That would be catastrophic. It's very important right now, folks. Go to FAIR's website or text. Write this down. You're going to see a lot of this. Text FAIR to the numbers 52886. FAIR 52886. That's 52886. You text the word FAIR 52886. We need to tell these guys no amnesty. No amnesty. You want to talk about some kind of adjustment program after you put in place Trump's major priorities, after you get the wall funded, after you get interior enforcement, after you sanction state and local, encourage state and local cooperation, sanction sanctuary cities, after you get rid of chain migration, after you get rid of the lottery. You see some good faith from Democrats and a good faith negotiation and give and take. We're not unreasonable people, but right now it seems to be unilateral, one-way street, right?
That's correct.
How did you feel watching that meeting yesterday with Trump?
It's perplexing that the Republicans are allowing the Democrats to negotiate on this from a position as if they had all of the cards when they don't. In this case, it's the Republicans. They have the White House, they have control of both the House and the Senate, and they have a president who campaigned on this issue. So it makes a lot of sense for the Republicans to hold the line because they can win on this no matter what, simply by not losing.
Well, I don't know how many of you feel out there, but are there swamp critters in the Republican Party too? Don't we have a few rogue elements?
Oh, definitely. We have a large number of Republicans who act like Democrats, and that's been the problem with this all along. And the Democrats are aware of the fact that the Republicans need all the Republican votes to make this successful. So unless Trump begins to impose some party discipline and make some demands on the legislators in his own party, this is going to continue to be a problematic issue.
Well, Trump seemed yesterday to be setting the Democrats up, because what the blue straight Democrats who are running for re-election do not want is to be in a position of shutting down the government to benefit illegal aliens, right? Prejudice, our military establishment, defense apparatus, U.S. citizens who've maybe been here since the Revolutionary War, they're going to have their interests subordinated or tamped down for the benefit of illegal aliens. That's basically what Feinstein and those guys are talking about. Now, this court decision is giving the Democrats an out to avoid that scenario. Maybe they would push the can down the road. But in the end, what do people need to be telling folks? Not accepting an amnesty. No amnesty, not accepting anything, and certainly the first priority needs to be Trump's promises need to be fulfilled in legislation that Trump's people needs. And whatever Trump was saying yesterday, I mean, getting screwed is a lousy feeling. You don't like to have a front row seat and watching it happen in front of you. Either Donald Trump is the most brilliant political tactician since Andrew Jackson, or he's a very strange personality who's very unpredictable. But for all of those people who got out there and sweated bullets to defend this guy, the immigration position is key. If Trump continues down the path that he talked about yesterday at that meeting, the Republicans will lose the House in 2018, and Trump will never get reelected. Trump needs to backpedal off those positions yesterday and stand firmly on those positions he ran on when he was a candidate for president. All of us expect nothing less. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate it. Thanks for joining.